Hey, everybody. Welcome back to this week's episode with Jeff and I Think Sales Live with Matt Rizzetta. Matt is somebody we've interviewed a couple times. This is going to be a great episode with great content. He is the president and CEO of North 6 Agency, N6A, a leading brand communications agency based in New York City with offices also in Colorado. And we're going to be talking about how to grow your brand post-COVID. Matt, it's great to have you on the show. You know, you're always filled with such great wisdom and, bite-sized things for people to take. How are you? Good to see you. And let's dive in. How should people be thinking about right now growing their brand as we're, entering Q4? 2021 is around the corner. There's talks of vaccines. Hopefully COVID is, dissipating a bit in the months to come. And as companies kind of ramp up and forecast, where they need to be.
Sure. John, by the way, it's great to see you. Jeff, great to meet you.
Thanks for being here, man. Glad to have you.
And John, you're like an extended member of my family at this point.
Yeah, I mean, I think you've been on the show like maybe I want to say 4 times.
Yeah, you have an invite to a nice homemade Italian dinner in New York.
Oh, great. All right, good. Maybe we'll have some of that pasta for our Rosh Hashanah.
What about me? What about me? I should be the add-on. I would love to.
You too, Jeff. You too, Jeff.
Right.
You could be like Buddy from Charles and Charles in the basement or whatever.
I'll take it.
So John, so thanks for having me. I'll tell you, one thing you asked about how to build brands in this environment. We've been advising clients 3 guiding principles since COVID started, and we've really yet to see one client fail that's followed these principles when it's come to building their brand. Number 1 is be classy. Number 2 is be smart. And number 3 is be fast. And let me just kind of explain each one of those. This environment for brands, it's a great opportunity to show the class and integrity of their brand. There's a lot of anxieties and stresses and pressures, and there's a microscope on a lot of brands in this environment, certainly more than there was pre-COVID. So it's a great opportunity for them to really present the integrity and the values for their brand on an external stage like never before. So, all decisions from a branding perspective, if you're in charge of running marketing for your company or sales, should point back to being classy, show the integrity of your brand. Number 2 is be smart. The brands that we really see winning in this environment are the ones that are outthinking and outsmarting their competition. So, rather than being flat and just taking a page from someone else's playbook that's already been written, try to do something different, try to do something smart, try to, get ahead by, creating some level of innovation or something that the competition isn't doing. So it's a great environment really to use this as an opportunity to be smart for your brand. And then the third thing is be fast. We've seen a lot of brands get beat to the punch in this environment because they just weren't quick enough with an idea that frankly was a really, really strong branding or marketing or sales idea. They just weren't first to market with it. They got beat, because they were thinking about it too long in the boardroom, and for whatever reason, they just weren't able to bring it to market expediently. So the third thing is, if you can be fast and you competition to the punch with an idea, that's a really strong combination to build a heck of a brand right now. And we've yet to see one client or one brand fail that's followed those 3 principles, be smart or be classy, be smart, and be fast.
Yeah.
For those salespeople out there and people managing salespeople, obviously you're doing this on a company level and handling branding and communication for companies. I think a lot of people may struggle, individual salespeople, kind of finding a way to create their brand within a brand. Maybe you could just expound a little bit on branding and how maybe individual salespeople listening might be able to, kind of set themselves aside and quote unquote, create a brand for themselves.
Yeah.
Sure. That's a great question.
Can I add one thing onto that?
Sure.
I love what you're talking about, and really focus on also the social aspect of it. Some of the different mediums of social media.
Sure. So, I've talked to a lot, Jeff, to your question, and John, yours too. I've talked to a lot of individual salespeople, marketing people, individual executives, smaller business owners. And the one thing that I think I've seen, or we've seen, work most effectively when it comes to individual practitioners with branding and sales is, we have a saying, kudos is currency, and getting kudos is kind of currency in this environment. And you have to shift your mindset and your mentality as a sales professional or as a branding professional. This is not pre-COVID where, it's difficult. Building a pipeline is difficult. Cold pitching prospects is difficult. This is really about building equity and relationships, and that will pay off in the long run. So we have the saying, kudos is currency. Anytime you get a pat on the back from a customer or from a prospect, treat it like it's a currency. Treat it like you closed a sale. Treat it like it's real money that you're getting, and in the long run, that will pay off. And it's a shift in the mindset. It's not an easy environment to sell cold into. It's not an easy environment to build a pipeline into. So throw all that stuff out the window. And just, if you're a salesperson right now, or you're a branding person, just look at the relationships and the networks that you're acquiring as a currency. And you should just be, pay it forward, do favors for your customers, lend consultative value in any way you can. And in the end, just trust that it'll pay off, because that's the environment, the reality of the environment that we're working in right now.
I love it. I love it. I have a quick question for you based on a couple of things that classy, smart, and fast reminds me. I double majored in economics and journalism. And in journalism, I worked at a TV station for a year as an intern, Channel 7, ABC. And one of the things they talked about all the time is you got to be fast, first, and right. And so I want to, and with that, you could talk a little bit to that as well, right? So it's good to be fast, and it's good to be first, but you got to be right, which goes back to kind of, I think, follows through into being classy, right? Like, you don't jump the gun. Strategically think about things before you actually go to post on social, send your email list, etc. So can you just talk about the prep time and the pause to actually plan?
Yeah, well, it's a great point, John. And I think that also underscores, you talk to somebody like me, and I'm sure yourself and Jeff, it sort of underscores why this is such a fascinating time to manage, such a fascinating environment to manage in right now, because you have to be fast, but being fast isn't good enough. You also need to be right. You need to be accurate. So you can never compromise your quality because of your expediency. So, and I've never managed in an environment where there's just as much premium on speed as there is on accuracy. And you have to get them both. You can't if you just get one of two, it's not going to get the job done. If you're just accurate, but you didn't do it fast enough, your competition probably beat you. And the fact that you're accurate is great, but you still probably, had some sort of a losing or compromised outcome. And if you're just fast, if you're first to market, to your point, but you're not accurate, well, that'll fall flat on its face, and that's a guaranteed recipe for failure. So, you need really strong, I think it also speaks to the importance of strong processes and discipline and rigor right now. You need to have, good checks and balances in place so that by the time you're bringing anything to market, whether it's an idea, whether it's a product launch, Jeff, whether it's a new sales initiative, you can bring those products to market quickly, but they've also went through some sort of rigorous, checks and balances to make sure that they're accurate.
And I just want to say one thing based on that is, so if you're going to share an article on social, just something that fundamental, read the article.
Yes.
Because sometimes you'll read the
just post it.
Right, you'll share it, but it has content in it that you don't want, to represent your brand. So you got to really, even as fundamental as that type of stuff. So,
yeah, don't just read the headline. Sometimes you read the headline, you post it on social, and then you don't realize that it might have been clickbait. And when you read the body, it's probably a little bit different than what you thought.
Correct.
And I hear you guys talking about classy, right? And it kind of reminds me of better. You remember, like the commercials, BSF, like, we don't make the products you buy, we make the products you buy better. So like and maybe we're old and there's a lot of people not getting that, but just a comment. It's so hard, in what people are doing out there. Everyone tries to just do it so fast, and I think they just don't take that extra second of time, just like John's talking about just posting something and not really actually reading it. So it's so important just to take that extra second. So That was for sure huge, to not compromise your accuracy for speed. I heard when you guys were talking before, when I was watching your other podcast, you were talking about, generally just meeting more, like in this particular environment. And I think more generally describes like a lot of the things we're doing, and John talked about, content and posting more and more and more, being in front of people more and more. What does that mean as far as meeting more for companies who are out there watching, as far as, meeting more? And I think this kind of goes back to the, not compromising accuracy or, getting better for more, because I struggle with that too. What does more mean, and how do you kind of get more out of more, if that makes
Sure.
I mean, are we talking about more?
Just to clarify here, we're talking about more.
The theme is more.
I love it. By the way, Jeff, you were bringing me back to my childhood with that commercial. I can hear the woman with the soothing voice in my head right now.
Right.
In terms of more, and you're right, more is probably one of the thematic words of COVID, right? Since March, I would say I think of two things. I think of number one, compressing time, and I think of number two, making no assumptions. So, when it comes to time compression, I think this environment, it's super important that all organizations and professionals think about ways in which they can compress time, and I think that will improve expediency. It also will improve accuracy. So things that you were doing previously that were taking 60 minutes, 120 minutes a week, whatever it was, think about ways in which you can get those same outputs in half the time, a quarter of the time, a fraction of the time, whatever. You don't have the luck. Time is your most precious asset in any environment, particularly in this one. So you just don't have the luxury of wasting time. So I would think about how can you compress time so that you're getting the same outputs, without having to, spend any more time, putting into the deliverables. So like we've done, I'll give you a good example of a few things we've done. I was meeting with my direct reports on a weekly basis for an hour. Now in this environment, we're meeting on a daily basis for 10 minutes. So over the course of the week, we're actually meeting less, in aggregate, but we're meeting more frequently, and we're getting more done in those daily meetings that we're having. And then the second thing I was talking about is you can make no assumptions. And I think that sort of underscores the importance of that word more in this environment. Like, it's an unprecedented environment. There's no playbook that you just can pull off the shelf and, this is how we manage in a pandemic. That type of playbook doesn't exist. So you just can't make any assumptions. You can't assume, communication flow is so important right now. You can't just make any assumptions. You have to, go the extra mile to make sure you're being super clear and transparent in your delivery. Because if you're not, it increases the chance of, somebody not being on the same page. And if one person's not on the same page, if one link is broken, the whole communication link in the organization gets broken. So just make no assumptions. And, as an organization, I think we've done a pretty good job. Obviously, we're getting better at that as we're getting more comfortable in the environment. But, when it comes to hosting regular town hall meetings, putting communication processes in place so that we're soliciting feedback, just, make no assumptions. If you think there might be any gray area around a message you communicated, or you think that a staff member might have a question, chances are the safe assumption is that they do have a question. So you might as well go out and try to be proactive and preemptive with answering it, and just make no assumptions.
So a couple things I loved, I loved everything you just said. Did you just finish reading the core agreements? That's right. That's one of my favorite books. I'm actually rereading that right now. But I love that book. Yeah, it's the greatest. But a couple things I want to talk about. I want to dive into more. Right. I like this idea of more because more. So me, what I see companies doing around the country that are successful during this, I'm not even going to call it COVID. This is the new, right? This is how companies are going to be, evolving. I love what you said, Matt. Every company and every leadership team should be meeting every morning for 5 to 15 minutes, right? 10-minute meetings are perfect. Every company should be doing way more training, way more training. They're disconnected from their people. Salespeople, I'm seeing companies who are ramping up their sales training, their management training, all of that. Companies should be infusing more mentors, cross mentoring, different generations of people, so they're communicating and Zooming each other on a consistent basis with a pattern and a rhythm. There's so many, whatever you're doing is from a marketing campaign, you should be doubling it and investing in your companies right now more and more and more. I think we're in the business of grabbing people's attention right now because it's so difficult. We have an attention span that's less than a goldfish. So from a PR standpoint, whether you're a business owner, a salesperson, a manager, you're managing people to get their attention, right? What do you do to keep people's attention for your brand? One last thing I have to comment on, because I want your feedback on it. When you look at companies and how you grow a company, there's growing the operations and then there's growing the brand. You can have great operations and a not so great brand, but still grow your business. You can have a great brand and not great back-end operations and still grow a business. But if you have great operations, like you talked about systems and processes, et cetera, and you're growing your brand and both are rising at the same time, then you become iconic. So can you just kind of speak about how to do that and then how to keep people's attention on all fronts?
Yeah, I totally agree with that. I think, sometimes, especially in a services business, right, John, you're sort of so focused on taking care of the customer. Sometimes you forget to take care of yourself. And you're right. You need to treat your company as a brand. And I also agree you could have the best brand in the world, but if you don't have a backbone, foundation built of strong operating, discipline and processes, and certainly a strong management team, basically it's all going to be smoke and mirrors in the marketplace, but then there's going to be no substance behind it. So I totally agree. I think that, successful businesses really don't achieve, scale until they figure out a way to sort of blend, and bring both of those two together. In terms of your question around how to capture the attention of prospects, customers in this environment. Look, I think content is king. Content has always been king, frankly, but in this environment, I think it's really amplified. I think that, brands need to be thinking about ways in which they can engage via content. And, Jeff, you and I were talking about this earlier with Kudos is currency. Just pay it forward. I think brands can use this as an opportunity to develop content that serves a purpose and serves some sort of place and purpose for their customers. And it's all, so it's thought leadership heavy. I think they need to use their brand as a public aid in a certain way and develop content that is serving a purpose that's helping their customers, their audience, their prospects navigate through this environment, survive this environment, potentially thrive in this environment. So I think this environment has really created an opportunity unlike any other for brands to lean on content and use content to help their customers not just engage with their brand, but also help their customers, grow their businesses like never before. Look at all of our businesses on this call. I mean, our businesses, we're all uniquely qualified and we can bring some level of expertise that can help other companies get through this crazy world we're living in right now. At N6A, we specialize in marketing and communications and PR. So we have, a specialized skill in that domain. And if we weren't using this as an environment to take that skill, develop content that's helping everybody kind of improve their brands through our specialized skill, then we're not really, doing our job as a corporate citizen. And I think that's really an important, an important point to underscore in this environment.
Yeah, well said.
So, I kind of want to go back to, very well said. You're talking about, maybe an aggregate less time of meeting, but meeting every day. And I think what kind of, at least the way that relates to me is, and I was doing the same type thing is creating a connection, during this COVID and everything that was going on. It was like, okay, listen, guys, we're not like out there going to be selling, pushing and whatnot. And I don't think other companies were doing that. It was more so, how do I create a connection with people? I think maybe that's the second piece, of my thought. And John's talking about, how do you keep people's attention? I think, you keep their attention by making that connection, and then that turns into the power for a salesperson to be able to influence their client or influence other people's or whoever they're targeting. What other ways, and I mean, you let me know if you feel that way too, but what other ways do you find, you're seeing people, having success with being able to influence people and clients and get them to, kind of move in the direction you're thinking?
Yeah, great question. I think in addition to kind of the kudos as currency and relationship building and using it as opportunity to get networks, Jeff, I think this is also an incredible opportunity for sales and marketing professionals to be consultative. And, we've actually been very, committed to that as a company. We've been training our service operation and our sales operation to be much more consultative with how we're dealing with customers in this environment than ever before. And it's a great environment for customers. They want expertise and they want partners, right? So the more consultative you can be, the better off you can be. So it's a great, we're a PR marketing service provider, but in this environment, we're a business partner. So if we can be consultative and demonstrate to our clients that we're just there to help them grow their businesses, even if it comes, above and beyond our core domain, which is PR and marketing, frankly, they want that. They're crazy. So, my advice to anybody out there who's in the sales and marketing business is just be as consultative as you can. Study your clients or your customers or your prospects, study the competitive landscape, figure out ways in which you can lend value to grow their businesses, even if it comes above and beyond sort of your core domain. If you're a recruiter, and your job is to secure job placements for a customer, guess what? You're not just a recruiter in this environment, you're a consultant. So figure out, maybe you can study your client's competitive environment, see who's IPOing, see who's selling, see who, has needs in certain areas. And I think if you can demonstrate value as a consultant and as a true consultative partner, you're going to win in this environment. And that's been our experience firsthand.
Yeah, I think that's absolutely critical, and I know just through our talks, Matt, you do that, that's part of the DNA of who you are in your company. I met Jeff when I was in the commercial real estate space. He owns a title company and leads a sales team, and he would go above and beyond. I mean, he would be doing everything needed that a title company didn't need to do or have to do because it just needed to get done and with no questions asked. But I want to jump into you as far as your business for a minute, because you're a PR and marketing company, and I think companies sometimes put that in a bucket where it's an expense, or they put that as in a bucket where maybe we don't need it right now. I'm a big fan that it used to be in the olden days. I mean, I'm 48, but back 20, 30 years ago, you only did PR when things were bad, right? So it's like you knew if someone was doing PR. Today, that is not the case. Today, you have to be doing PR 24/7, 365, and companies, in my opinion, need to be looking at services like yours as an investment for the long term, right? So what's the lifetime value of a client, and then what type of PR and marketing budget do you need to actually get that client? And so talk to the person who's listening right now, or whenever they listen to this over the years, on how to get started with a company like yours, and what the rhythm really should be. It's not do a press release, you're done, you're viral, period, the end. So what is that? What is the rhythm and the continuum and the assembly line of working with a PR and marketing firm to get more clients in the door and really be effective?
Sure. Yeah, and exactly what you said earlier, John, is that's the notion that at N6A, we're really obsessed with dispelling, which is, the notion that historically PR has kind of lived as this nice to have, but not a need to have. It's a liability on the P&L. It's not an asset.
Right.
We really believe, PR is the most important component of the marketing stack because it's credibility. There's no other part of the marketing stack that's earned. That's credibility. And the job of a really good, smart PR partner today in this environment is that they need to deliver credibility assets to their clients that help drive outcomes. And we've kind of productized this outcome-focused PR model at N6A, where our thesis is that any one of 6 outcomes: revenue, sales, Jeff, recruiting, capital raise, M&A, competitive outcomes. You can't IPOs. You can't achieve any of those outcomes without really solid credibility assets in the marketplace. The challenge is, John, that those credibility assets, they just need to be aligned toward one of those outcomes. So That's where I think that's where rubber meets the road with, good, PR practitioners and great PR practitioners. I think good PR practitioners kind of just practice the status quo where they believe if they get John or Jeff, on CNBC, they've done their job. Great PR practitioners, I think, realize that, hey, John or Jeff, what's the outcome their business is looking to achieve? They're looking to recruit talent. They're looking to, get a new prospect into the funnel, whatever it might be. And then because of that outcome that they're looking for, here's a credibility asset, which might be a CNBC hit or whatever anyway. But now that's why we're getting that credibility asset. And then you're aligning it to drive a lead. So, we put Jeff on CNBC because he wants to go, get this prospect in the funnel, and then it needs to be amplified once it's secured. So now we're going to take some paid media spend out. We'll do an email newsletter. We might put some SEO juice behind it. We're going to amplify that credibility asset ultimately to drive a lead. And when you do that, now you've kind of finished the race, and now you've demonstrated that PR is not just a nice to have, it's a need to have that's had a tangible, measurable impact on the client's ROI.
Yeah, that's important. I mean, being, anybody in sales out there, is I think, and maybe they don't even know it, is, out there struggling to, find credibility and prove their worth out there and show that, they, are worthy of the business that they're out there, trying to attain. So just a comment there. And I think we're ready for the speed round.
Well, we're ready for this. In 1 second, we're ready for the speed round. I have one thing to say. There is, to me, the way I see it, as I'm coaching companies, when companies commit to PR, when companies commit to marketing, then sales increase, right? You get more credibility. You give your salespeople more credibility to get out there and bring in more sales. And so I think that is really important. I just wanted to comment on that.
I'm going to make one more second on the speed round.
You want one more comment?
One more comment on the, now I have another comment.
Yeah,
you did. I have to. No, I'm just kidding.
No,
it just goes back to the simple thing. Like, you got to spend money to make money, and it's absolutely right. And this kind of goes to, maybe leads into what John does too. I think the components that both of you guys have are so important. And John is not an expense, but an investment. And I think what you do is, it's an investment in yourself. And if you're going to invest in somebody and you're out there and you're watching this, invest in yourself. Obviously, that's who you believe in. And I think it's a huge component and a piece there. So
yeah,
I'm done.
All right. Time for the speed round, Jeff. Ask the first question.
How would you create your, how would you become make yourself a partner, with somebody, make a client feel like you're a partner in what you're doing for them?
Study. I think that's the key. Understand what their competitors are doing. I think use data, back up any kind of consultative recommendations you're bringing to a client with data. Hey, Jeff, we saw your company is doing A. We saw your competitors are doing B. If we were to do C, we think we can beat them. I think that the more data-backed, consultative strategies and recommendations you can bring to your clients, the more as a partner they're going to see you.
I love it. One thing a business owner, a salesperson, doesn't matter, can do to be more innovative right now.
Experiment. I think experimentation is the key to all innovation. I think if you're not out there, playing in traffic, you're never going to innovate. So I think it all starts with going out there, playing in traffic, experiment a little bit. Just don't be stupid about it. Be disciplined enough to study what worked, what didn't work. The stuff that didn't work, John, cut it out, throw it out the window. And the stuff that did work, double down, improve it, make it better the second, third time around. And then that's where your greatest innovation will come from.
I love it.
Most difficult sales lesson.
God, I've learned so many. I would say don't. So look, I say promise, deliver, rinse, and repeat. I think that is probably the lesson I've learned the most. There's this notion of, obviously, you never want to overpromise and underdeliver. We all know that's a guaranteed recipe for failure. I think, we're all guilty of probably making that in some way, shape, or form. I think the notion of, here's the catch, Jeff. I think the notion of underpromising and over-delivering is also sort of inherently dishonest. I think you should always tell a customer or a prospect what you believe you can deliver, and then you better damn well deliver it, and then rinse and repeat it. That's a good recipe to succeed.
I love it. Matt, you're always full of wisdom. Tell everybody where your ideal client, how they can get a hold of you, the name of your book, where they can buy your book, all that other great stuff.
Sure. So my latest book, Embrace the Pace, just chronicles 100. You talked, Jeff, about lessons earlier. I made a bunch of dumb mistakes over the past 10 or 11 years of my entrepreneurial journey. They're all chronicled in my book, Embrace the Pace. It's the 100 most exhilarating lessons I've learned in 10 years entrepreneurship. They can get that on Amazon. Check us out at n6a.com. And any client or brand out there that's looking to achieve a business outcome through the lens of PR, that's our ideal customer, and we're always available and happy to help.
Matt, I can't thank you enough. You're always full of it's like a mini master's class every time I talk to you. I appreciate everything. Congratulations on the continual growth of your business, and all the best for you. Have a great end of year. Finish strong. Jeff, always fun. Any thoughts for Matt?
Yeah, Matt. No, listen. Thanks so much for coming on the show. I think that everybody listening out there should have gotten some great tips here. Take one from you and go out there and listen. Obviously, you know what you're doing, and kudos to you.
Yeah.
Thank you. We got a long way to go, but thanks, guys. Appreciate it.
We all have a lot more to do. Right.
More.
Right.
More.
Oh, that's right. That's an apropos way to end the segment.
Correct. Matt, thanks, man. Appreciate you very much.
All right, give my best to your family, John. Jeff, it's good to meet you.
Thanks, Matt. Thanks so much.